timers, logic, and GPIO expansion. We'll start with the chips that handle timing and logic without a single line of code. These are the ones that make you feel like a wizard early on because they just work. No firmware required. Chip 1, the 555 timer. If chips had a Hall of Fame, the 555 timer gets the biggest statue. It was designed in 1971 by a Swiss engineer named Hans Kamenzind, and the story behind it is honestly kind of rough. He'd just left his job, the economy was tanking. He had a wife and 4 kids to feed, and he built this thing on contract working alone, hand-drawing the circuit on paper because there was no software for it yet. Signetics almost didn't release it. They did anyway in 1972, and it became, by most estimates, the single most produced integrated circuit in history. Over 1 billion units a year, still being made today, over 50 years later. Inside that tiny 8-pin package, 2 comparators, and a flip-flop charge and discharge a capacitor at whatever rate you set with 2 resistors. No code, no crystal, just pick your resistor values and you've got a precise timer, a square wave generator, or a PWM source. You'll find it blinking LEDs, generating tones in cheap toys, controlling motor speed, and even debouncing a twitchy mechanical switch. Chip 2, the 74HC595 shift register. This one's part of a much older family. Texas Instruments introduced the original 7400 series logic chips back in 1964, and the faster CMOS HC versions like this one came along in the 1980s. What it does is beautifully simple. It takes serial data in on 3 wires and turns it into 8 parallel outputs. And you can chain a bunch of them together, output to input, controlling dozens of pins using those exact same 3 microcontroller lines. Same 3 wires, basically infinite outputs. It's the chip behind those 8-digit 7-segment displays and big scrolling LED signs, anywhere you need way more outputs than your microcontroller physically has pins for. Chip 3, the CD4017 decade counter. The 4017 comes from the CMOS 4000 series family, which RCA rolled out in the late 1960s, specifically because CMOS sipped almost no power compared to the chips before it. What the 4017 actually does is delightfully mechanical. Every clock pulse, it lights up the next of 10 output pins in sequence, then loops back to the start. No microcontroller, no code, just wire it up and it counts. Slow the clock down, you get a classic chase light effect. Speed it up, it becomes a frequency divider. It's the guts of those old school Christmas light chasers, DIY sequencers, and it even shows up inside vintage analog synthesizers. Chip 4, the 74HC138 decoder. Same logic family as the shift register, just doing a completely different job. Feed this chip a 3-bit binary number, and it activates exactly 1 of 8 outputs. Nothing else touches. It's basically hardware's version of an if-else statement, except the decision happens instantly, in the logic gates themselves with 0 code involved. You'll find it doing chip select duty on old memory boards, and handling row selection inside multiplexed keypads and LED matrices. Quick word from today's sponsor, NextPCB. If you're taking any of these chips from a breadboard to a real board, NextPCB handles PCB manufacturing and assembly, and their free DFM Gerber viewer catches over 20 design errors before you hit order. They've also got HQ online, 60,000 plus components in stock. Sign up through the link in the description and get a $30 coupon toward your first order. Links below. Back to the chips. Analog, signal, and power management. Here's the thing nobody warns you about when you start. The real world is messy. Voltages drift, sensors whisper in millivolts buried under noise, and batteries never hand you a clean, stable voltage just because you asked nicely. This next group of chips exists purely to clean that mess up before it wrecks your project. Chip 5, the LM358 op-amp. National Semiconductor put this one out decades ago, and it's been second sourced by basically every analog chip maker on the planet since. 2 independent op-amps live inside this single 8-pin package, and depending on how you wire the feedback resistors, it'll amplify a whisper quiet signal into something usable, buffer a fragile high-impedance input, or filter out junk frequencies you don't want. It's the quiet workhorse behind amplifying current shunt readings and cleaning up analog sensor signals before they ever reach an ADC. Chip 6, the LM393 comparator. Same era, same lineage, completely different job. An op-amp is built to smoothly amplify. A comparator is built to make a decision, fast. The LM393 watches 2 voltages, and the instant one crosses the other, its output snaps from low to high almost instantly, no in between. That crisp digital edge is exactly what a microcontroller wants to see. It's the brain behind dusk-triggered light sensors, low battery cutoff circuits, and zero-crossing detectors used in AC dimming. Chip 7, the TP4056 charge controller. If you've built anything USB rechargeable, you've used this chip, guaranteed. It's become the default lithium battery charge controller for the entire hobbyist world, mostly because it's absurdly cheap and it just works. It manages the full charge curve automatically, constant current while the battery's hungry, switching to constant voltage as it tops off, with thermal protection built in so it doesn't cook itself, plus status LEDs so you know what's happening. It's in nearly every USB rechargeable LiPo project out there, from power banks to handheld tools to tiny drones. Chip 8, the 7805 and AMS1117 voltage regulators. The 78 series regulators go back to the early 1970s, originally from companies like Fairchild and National Semiconductor, and the design has barely needed to change since. Before any chip on your board can boot, it needs power that doesn't wobble. These regulators just burn off the excess input voltage as heat and hand you back a flat, boring, reliable 5 volts or 3.3 volts. Not efficient, not elegant, but dead simple and basically bulletproof, which is exactly why it's still on almost every hobby board 50 years later. It's literally the power stage on your Arduino Uno right now. Chip 9, the MT3608 boost converter. Here's the catch with a linear regulator like the 7805. It can only step voltage down, never up. So when your battery's sitting at 3.7 volts and your motor wants 12, you need a completely different tool. Boost converters like the MT3608 rapidly switch a MOSFET on and off, storing and releasing energy through an inductor to push that voltage up efficiently instead of just burning it away. This is how you squeeze 12 volts out of a single skinny LiPo cell for relays or motors, and it shows up constantly in portable solar charging setups too. Motor drivers and power actuators. We've got clean power and clean signals now, so it's time to actually move something. And here's the problem. Microcontroller pins are wimpy. They can barely light an LED, so asking them to spin a motor directly is a great way to release the magic smoke. This group of chips exists to stand between your fragile logic and the real high-current world. Chip 10, the ULN2003A Darlington array. This design traces back to Sprague Electric in the 1970s, and the fundamental idea hasn't needed updating since. A microcontroller pin tops out around 20 milliamps. A relay coil or motor winding laughs at 20 milliamps. The ULN2003 packs 7 high-current Darlington transistor pairs into one chip, each able to sync around half an amp, with flyback diodes built right in, so the voltage spike from a switching coil doesn't fry anything on the way out. This is your go-to for driving a 28 BYJ48 stepper motor, banks of relays or solenoids, in things like vending machines and electronic locks. Chip 11, the L298N and L293D H-bridge drivers. To reverse a DC motor, you have to flip the polarity across it, and a single transistor just can't pull that off. An H-bridge arranges 4 switches, so current can flow either direction through the motor on command. This chip packs 2 H-bridges into one package, handling both direction and PWM speed control for 2 motors or 1 4-wire stepper. It's the beating heart of basically every differential drive robot chassis you've ever seen roll across a table, plus small CNC axes and RC car steering. Chip 12, the PCA9685 PWM driver, originally a Philips semiconductor part, now made by NXP after Philips spun its chip division off in 2006. Try generating even 4 or 5 clean PWM signals purely in software, and your microcontrollers start sweating. This chip just takes the whole job off its plate. 16 channels of smooth 12-bit PWM, all controlled over a simple 2-wire I2C connection. Your MCU basically just says, go here, and walks away. It's the chip powering multi-servo robotic arms, hexapod robot legs, and most of the cool robotics builds you've probably seen online.